What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. I'm in Dubai. Can you tell? No, you can't. I'm sorry. This is the only white light in this apartment, by the way, guys, which is why I'm going to be standing here. And I've already missed the daytime, so I had to do it here. So I want to talk today about maximizing every single thing that you can. Now, everything here is going to be geared towards muscle building. Everything here is going to be geared towards bodybuilding. If you want to be the best version of yourself, I personally think that you should be taking these things into consideration, and I think you should be maximizing them where you can. I'm going to split this into nutrition, training, and recovery. I'm going to keep referring to my notes so I don't forget anything. And this is what I do. So let's start off with nutrition. Nutritionally, I definitely prioritize my carbohydrates. Why? Because we know that carbohydrates are the most readily available source of energy that we have when we're working anaerobically, which is what we need. We're working anaerobically, which is essentially kind of short bursts of energy, which is essentially weightlifting. So we know that we need to prioritize our carbohydrates. When do we prioritize our carbohydrates? Around our peri-workout, which means pre, intra, and post. Pre, I have a pretty decent chunk. Intra, I definitely have a pretty decent chunk as well through highly branched cyclic dextrin. And then post-workout, I have my biggest chunk of carbohydrates. For example, I currently eat 600 grams of carbs. 200 of those carbs I eat post-workout. Why? Because we have a higher demand for it right there. So we have an insulin regulated glucose transporter called GLUT4, G-U-L-T4. And I'm going to read this next bit off my notes because I just couldn't remember. I've tried to fucking say this sentence so many times and I forget a word every now and again. So GLUT4, G-U-L-T4, permits the facilitation diffusion of circulating glucose down its concentration gradient into muscle and fat cells. Within the cells, glucose is rapidly phosphorylated by glucokinase in the liver and hexokinase in other tissues to form glucose 6-phosphate, which then enters glycolysis or is polymerized into glycogen. Oh my god, I have said this so many times, it's the best one I've ever done. Which essentially just means we are going to use way more of that carbohydrate. So we've got 100 grams of carbohydrates, we're going to use so much more of that 100 grams of carbohydrates versus just having that outside of the peri-workout nutrition area. So that's pretty much what I do with my carbohydrates. Other than that, I just split them out throughout the day pretty evenly. And then on my non-training days, we have a less glycotic demand. We have less demand for glycogen. I'm not training anaerobically. I'm doing a little bit of cardio, a little bit of aerobic fitness, which is definitely better to use more fats. Why? Because fats will kind of be absorbed, be broken down a little bit slower, which is probably why marathon runners or the what they call the Ironman runners will have loads of fats, shitloads of fats, because they'll just keep you a consistent burn throughout the competition. So that is why my carbohydrates are significantly lower on my non-training day. My protein is exactly the same on both days. My fat comes up way higher on my non-training days to account for the calories. So if I've got, let's say, 5,000 calories on my training days, I don't want to come all the way down to like 2,000 calories, just take away all the carbs. So I come up to like 3,500, 4,000 calories, but just fill the rest with fats. That's just to make sure we're not losing weight and we're still going up in this is all considering that you're in a surplus. Moving on to protein, we know that we kind of need like a minimum serving of leucine per meal. I aim for like 2 to 3 grams of leucine per meal, which works out about 30 to 40 grams of protein. I stick at 30 grams of protein because I focus on digestion, and having quite a lot of protein affects me personally. Side note, everything in this will be personal. You will have to adjust it for yourself. So I have like 6 to 7 regular protein feedings a day, 30 grams each one, so it works out about 180 grams of protein. This is just to ensure that I keep topping up that protein need for the day, because I have recovery demands all day, which is why I'll give myself the building blocks of recovery all day. And that's pretty much it for protein and carbs. Now with fats, I tend to have about 10 grams of fat with every meal. Why? Because we need a little bit of fats in there to slow down that uptake of carbohydrates. I remember when I used to have really low fats on my meal, I used to get a little bit hypo because you have that huge spike in insulin and nothing to kind of smooth you off or nothing to slow that spike down. We know that if we ingest both fat and carbs at the same time, we're going to utilize both at the same time, versus if we just have carbohydrates, we're just going to go boom and shuttle through those very quickly. So you have like I like to say you have a little bit of fat to take the edge off. But there are times where you will need to just boost that carbohydrates, for example, post-workout, where you need that rapid kind of absorption rate. So you use a little bit of fat to kind of calm you down. So if you do get that, if you do have like a big carbohydrate meal and you get that kind of hyper feeling of a bit like, oh my god, I'm a bit like shaky, have a little bit of fat in there that will really smooth you off. But then you also need to take into account, if you have too much fat and too much carbs in one meal, you're kind of going to be fighting for what energy source you want to use. So I definitely have like a higher protein, I have like a protein fat meal with maybe a little bit of carbs, and then I have like a protein carb meal with like a little bit of fat. So you've always got to keep that balance. Everything I do is with regards to digestion, from food choices, from supplement choices, like for example whey. Like I don't have normal whey, I have whey isolate. If you guys may struggle with whey, try a whey isolate. It's almost like it has like digestive enzymes in it already, so it helps you kind of pre-digest it. Because we're only as good as what we can assimilate, guys. And if you have indigestion, if you have bloating problems, and you find that you maybe got the shits, maybe you've got like a stomach problem, that's no good. If you can't eat, you can't grow. So everything needs to be with digestion. For me, that means I have less gluten. I still have a little bit of gluten. Less lactose. I still have a little bit of lactose. But I don't just chow it down. I know people who can slam yogurts and slam ice creams. I can't do that. It would give me a stomach ache. So I focus mainly rice-based things, rice-based cereal, rice, and as many single ingredient foods as possible. I have very little more than one ingredient foods. The only things I would have are like a Rice Krispie square bar every now and again. And that's pretty much it. If you're having like multiple meals of multiple ingredient foods, for example, I'm trying to give you, let's see if we can get you like a protein example here. For example, if you're having like a takeaway meal, like a ready meal, and you look at the back of that and the list is like this, you know, across, it's just like you don't want that shit. Let's face it. Yeah, I'm all for if it fits your macros, but that shit's going to kill you in the long run, you know. Like, we're not built to run on E numbers, we're not built to run on artificial sweeteners, we're not built to run on sugar and all that kind of shit, you know. When we were fucking back in the wilderness, back in the day, a couple thousand years ago, we weren't doing that shit, you know. We were having single ingredients, highly bioavailable things. So I actually only count my highly bioavailable protein as well, that's a side note. And pretty much just going for those things that I know that I'm going to absorb as much as possible. And then finally, on nutrition, I'll talk about supplements. I'm not going to talk about all of the supplements. I'm just going to talk about the kind of the alternative ones which I personally think are really helping me. For one is a good digestive enzyme. I currently use Ravenous by Anabolic Designs. It comes with like an amylase, protease, and lipase, and like a HCl, and there's a few other things in there that will help you kind of digest things. We know that those enzymes are the ones that digest protein, carbs, fats. And then I also use CBD. I fucking love CBD. I really love CBD. I really suffer from anxiety. It really helps me take the edge off my anxiety. That you know, when you get that real on edge feeling, it takes the edge off. I will still get a little bit of anxiety, but it takes that initial edge off, and it also really helps with my sleep. If you guys ever want to use CBD, go to Love Hemp CBD Oils. CBDoilsuk.com. It's a company that I work with called Love Hemp. You can use Josh20 for 20% discount. 20% is pretty damn good. Slide that one in. Backhand. And then also a glucose disposal agent. When my carbohydrates get really high, they were at 850 grams a couple of weeks ago. I need a glucose disposal agent that just helps me shut around those carbohydrates and use way more of those, save them sitting around, save some of them coming out as waste. I use Glucomax by Strom Sports, good memory, and I really find that helps. They've got a great profile on there. Check them out if you've never tried them. I wouldn't necessarily try them if you're just kind of eating a normal amount of carbs. I would only try them if you're getting really super high, because we want to keep that natural ability to utilize carbohydrates pretty damn good. So actually I don't have those post-workout, because I want my biggest carbohydrate meal to be disposed of by me, and also the demand from training should drive enough natural glucose disposal. You know, you should fucking shuttle that away straight away because you need it, because you train so hard. And then furthermore, I'm just going to say highly balanced collection. I know I've touched on it before, but that helps me get a load of calories in, and it's super good. It's of low, I'm going to get this wrong. Someone get me for this. It's of high molecular weight, which promotes gastric emptying, which means it just essentially comes into your gastric system and empties pretty damn quick, so you can utilize that energy pretty damn quick, versus like a dextrose, which takes a little bit longer to digest. As we move on to recovery, I just want to say this is going to be a fucking long video, I'm sorry. Recovery, what do? I foam roll, I stretch, I take baths, I do salt baths, I get massages, I go to a chiropractor, I sleep 9 hours a day, plus sometimes I get 10 hours a day. I generally do these things every single week. I go to a chiropractor every other week. I get a massage when I can. I got a massage the other day when I'm in Dubai. I make sure I stretch after every session. I make sure I foam roll 2 to 3 times a week. I make sure I take my supplements to allow inflammation levels to come down. For example, curcumin, CBD, they're pretty damn good at reducing inflammation. And then obviously a lot of the nutrition comes in with recovery. Fruits and vegetables. Eat loads of them. Trust me. Just eat loads of them. As many different leafy greens as you can. You're going to feel way, way, way better. Recovery was way quicker than nutrition, wasn't it? Yes, it was. So I do all of those things repeatedly. Now let's talk about training. So I follow a high frequency, high intensity protocol, fairly low volume. This allows me to hit the frequency that I need. I tend to hit the muscles that I want to work on most 3 to 4 times a week. So right now I'm working on upper body. So I'm hitting upper body 4 times a week, lower body twice a week. About 8 weeks ago I was focusing on my lower body. I was hitting lower body 4 times a week and my upper body twice a week. So everything is based off frequency. We know that we need to send that muscle building signal to our cells as frequently as possible to tell the signal we need to fucking grow. We need to grow. Keep sending that signal, you know. So it's just why we talk about frequency. We know that muscle protein synthesis, or we know that when we elicit that protein synthesis response, it lasts anywhere from 48 to 72 hours in natural athletes. If you're taking anabolics, that will last a little bit longer. So that just means that we need to be hitting everything every 48 to 72 hours in order for it to grow. After those, you will start to atrophy, but it's going to be insignificant. It's not going to be very much. So if you are hitting things every 4 days, you're going to be fine. But if you can get things every 2 to 3 days, that's going to be absolutely amazing. I don't do too much volume. If I do, I feel it. I'm not recovering. I'm not progressing. What's not happening? I monitor every single fucking variable there is, and if something's going wrong, I know what it is, because I'm either not progressing, I've got too many DOMs. If that's the case, I'm going to take away a few sets, and I'm going to make sure I can, but I'm going to keep that intensity high. Why do I do high intensity and not reps in reserve or RPE scale? Because what happens when you go into the gym, you feel like shit. How are you going to know what RPE 7 is? You've got 3 less in the tank. You're not going to know what 3 less in the tank is. If you hit it all out every single set and reduce that volume, I promise you're going to get those results, and I promise you're going to leave it on the table. You're not going to have to worry about if you've got 3 left in the tank, or maybe you had 4 left in the tank, or maybe you had 2 left in the tank. How are you going to fucking measure it? I don't know how these people measure it. I know they're going to hate on me if they watch this video, but... And finally, I want to talk about the other things that I do. So I currently hire 2 coaches. I have one sports psychologist. He helps me deal with my anxiety. He helps me deal with my performance. The difference between a psychologist and a sports psychologist is every single thing that he does is geared towards performance. He helps me focus on my sessions. He gives me routines to do while I'm outside the gym and walking in order to focus my mind onto that session. As well as that, I have Callum Raystrick from the Muscle Mentors as my coach. I check in with him once a week. It keeps me accountable. I know all these variables. I know what I should be doing. But having someone like Callum in my wing is priceless. Having someone to check in independently and completely away from like my head who's in it and seeing my physique every single day, and he sees me once a week, that's so beneficial to me. The advice that he can give is unrivaled. He is more knowledgeable than I am. And that's what I want to be around. People who are more knowledgeable. I learn from every single day, and I learn how to increase things. I'm also embarking on the anabolic journey very, very soon. He is way more in the know than I am, and it's an absolute godsend that he's in my corner. He's going to be able to interpret my bloods. He's going to tell me how to stay healthy. He's going to tell me how to do this the best way possible. So invest in a coach if you haven't got one. I'm a coach. Invest in me. Plug. that was it. I had to run through that because there was a lot to say. I hope this made sense to you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to kill it here. See you soon.